And we are live from Liquid HQ. Hello, anybody that may be out there already. I don't know if we've got anybody on just yet. We have a viewer. Hello, viewer. Welcome. It's the Power Hour with Ollie Norman. Two viewers. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. I'll just wait for a few more people to turn up, give some people a bit of time to tune in, and then we will get into the questions, because we've got quite a few waiting to be answered. Hello, new viewer. Let's see if we can't get ourselves a few more before we get into this. Hope everybody's having a nice Friday. Happy Friday to you all. There we go. Oh, our third viewer has returned. There we go. Got some more people joining now. Hello, hello. Just give it another minute or so here. Wait for everybody who might want to arrive, and then we can kick things off. It's always the awkward part, isn't it? Okay. Alrighty. I think that's enough time. We'll start getting into things, I reckon. We've got a few people here with us today. Hello again, for those of you who haven't already heard me say hello. Okie dokie. So, let's get into the questions. Thank you very much for sending your questions through already. We've got a few waiting here to be answered. So, the first one is from Diane Bourne. And she's asked us why the 10ml bottles are so hard to squeeze lately. Now, it's interestingly enough, that is something that I've had one or two people sort of mention to me, both inside the business and from our customers' perspectives. So essentially, for those who might not be aware, we have changed our 10ml bottles over to a 100% recycled PCR PET version. The previous bottles we were using were made out of plastic that's known as PET. The PCR bit means post-consumer recycled, which essentially it means that our 10ml bottles are now from a 100% recycled source, which means they're being produced without using virgin plastic. So it means we're requiring a lot less raw materials to be used in order to produce brand new bottles, when there's loads of material out there that we can be recycling to put back into the system and reuse in the way that we are now. Now, along with the material being recycled, that does mean there can be some variation between batches of bottles. Generally, they are very, very consistent, and the most important thing to remember is that the bottles are 100% safe, and you can expect the same kind of quality from them and durability that you used to from the previous ones. It has been a while since we've been using these now, so many of you could well already be familiar with the fact we've made this change. But one thing to take note of is that could be the reason why you're experiencing an increased stiffness in the bottle while you're trying to squeeze it. There is a little bit of variation between batches in the material. That's led to slight changes in colour, but it can also mean that from time to time they are a little bit firmer to the touch, so when you're trying to squeeze them. If you notice, if it's causing you real trouble, then please do log it with the customer service team, and we can make a note of that. And if we start getting a few people making the same complaint, then of course we can take that to our supplier and, sort of explain to them that we're having a bit of an issue with the consistency of the product, and we can get that addressed to make sure that you guys are getting the product you want and keep you happy. So that's that for you, Diane. I hope that sort of answers your question. Next question here from Mandy Knight, and this is a stock question. I feel like we might have a couple of those today. How come all my favourite liquids, mango, citrus ice, etc., have been out of stock? Are you having supply issues? The honest answer to that is yes, we have been having one or two supply issues recently. It's not anything that needs to cause any panic. It's not something that's going to be permanent. Unfortunately, like many businesses across the UK, we have been dealing with setbacks and delivery delays and just issues in getting hold of some of the raw materials that we used to just be able to get very, very freely. That's obviously down to issues that have been caused by Brexit, which I'm sure most of you are very familiar with if you pick up the news, and also just in general, the shipping and delivery industry at the moment is massively, massively down on drivers, and that's been causing a lot of delays. And it's also the suppliers we actually get our materials from will have also been experiencing issues in getting their raw materials to process the ingredients that we then purchase from them to make our e-liquids for you. So it's all been a bit of a knock-on effect. All I can do is sincerely apologise on behalf of Onepoundeliquid and the whole team here. We know it's not ideal. For what it's worth, most of us here are also Onepoundeliquid customers, and some of our favourite lines have been out of stock as well, and we're working as hard as we can to try and get things resolved and get things back to normal. It's a little bit of a challenge, and we will have sticking points along the way, but we're constantly working on it, and we just want to reassure you guys that stock will be replenished as soon as possible, and we will do everything we can to make sure that those lines stay up for as long as possible so we don't have quite so many out in future. So that's for you, Mandy. I hope that helps. And for anyone else who's been experiencing stock issues as well, genuinely, again, I do sincerely apologise for that. It's something we're trying to resolve as quickly as we can for you all. John Garrett has asked, hi, why have you stopped selling the Innokin T20 coils? Honestly, we at Liquid, as you probably know, we try and sort of refresh and cycle our third-party hardware supply. Obviously, we have lots of nice kits from Schmock, Innokin, and a few other brands that I'm sure you'd be plenty familiar with if you're in the vaping industry, in the vaping world. Essentially, once sales start to dip on certain lines, there's not a lot of point in us keeping them around anymore. It's space in the warehouse, and of course we don't want to end up with loads of stock that just ends up sitting around and doesn't end up being all that popular. Unfortunately, the T20 coils are one of those products that started to drop off a little bit, and we are due to refresh our third-party hardware selection very, very soon. With that will come some changes to what you see on the website, so do keep your eyes peeled in the future for that, and we will have possibly some exciting new devices for you to have a look at and you might want to have an experiment with, and we'll have a whole new selection of coils as well. We do try and keep certain coil types in stock constantly because we know that even when certain devices that are kind of old in terms of vaping history are still perfectly usable, perfect, and still really quite popular. So like the Aspire POC X as an example, we're not likely to get rid of our supply of POC X's and POC X coils anytime soon because we understand what a popular device platform that is and that many of our Innokin customers use it. And it's the same with the Innokin T20s. Unfortunately, we just, if they're not proving to be too popular anymore, it's not likely we're going to replace them. If enough of you guys, make a song and dance about it and let us know that that this is something you want and it's something you would like us to offer, then there is absolutely nothing stopping us from readdressing that supply and potentially getting those back in stock. But as I'm sure you can understand from a business point of view, we have to make sure that we're providing the right kind of stock that will sell that you guys actually want to buy. We'd love to be able to keep everything forever so we can keep everyone happy all the time, but it's just one of those things. It's just not practical, which I'm sure you'll understand. But do watch this space in terms of hardware and coils. We are going to be updating that range soon, and there might be something even better for you to dabble with. I appreciate that's not solving your T20 coil problem right now. I do hope you can find a supply somewhere to keep yourself going in the time being, but please do check back and see if you can get your hands on a new device and something nice and exciting to play with. Okie dokie, next question we've got here. Okay, so Jonathan O'Donoghue. I noticed you also left a comment on our post about this video going live. Apologies you've not received an answer that you found satisfactory yet to your issue. I believe this is actually in regard to redeeming your loyalty points, which is something we've had a few people actually raise with us recently. So this is something that we are looking into from a technical standpoint. However, I do believe there are one or two things you might want to try before completely discounting. If you have tried these things already, then please do accept my apology. And all I can say in that circumstance is that you do just get in touch with our customer service team. Please explain to them exactly what's going on. They will be more than happy to help you. They'll be able to go into the back end and try and solve the problem for you. And failing that, we'll do everything we can to resolve it as quickly as possible. However, when it comes to checking out your order, if you happen to have loyalty points with us, then you should notice on the desktop version it's quite obvious. When you go to checkout, there is a slider that appears at the bottom which allows you to decide how many of your loyalty points you wish to redeem against the order you're making. So like I say, on desktop that's quite obvious. On mobile view, obviously the majority of us are now browsing on mobile. I appreciate that. We can see the percentage difference, and there's a hell of a lot more people browsing online now than they do on desktop. So if you Jonathan, happen to be one of these people that's trying to redeem their points via mobile, you may or may not have missed. It's not the most obvious thing where the slider goes. So when you actually on the mobile view get through to your checkout page and you go through to the payment section, you'll notice there's a little tab at the very top that says order summary with a little drop down arrow. It's not the most obvious thing, I will admit, but if you click on that, that will then drop down and you will actually see your point redemption slider appear there instead, and that's where you'll be able to redeem your points. If you haven't given that a go already, please do have a little look on your mobile view and see if that works for you. If you're still having an issue with redeeming your points after that, please do get in touch with the customer services team. That is the best way and the fastest way for you to get a response, and I promise you we don't take it idly. We will do everything we can to make sure that we get that fixed for you, because of course the last thing we want is a loyal liquid customer out there not able to use the points that they've worked hard earning with us through their loyalty. For those of you who aren't aware of the loyalty scheme, this is something we've actually been doing on Liquid for a while now, and it's... Oh, another question come through. I'll get to you, Andrew, just in just a second. Yeah, the loyalty scheme is something we've been running on the site for quite a while now. And essentially what that means is with every purchase you make with us, every 10 mil every 10 mil bottle equates to 10 points, and once you let those stack up a little bit, then you can redeem those against your order to get some nice rewards. So please do look into that if it's not something you've been taking advantage of already. If you've had an account with us for a while, you might have a lot of points stacking up there that you didn't know about. If you go into your account section, into your actual personal details section in your account, you will be able to see how many points you've got there. You might have a pleasant surprise if you didn't know they were building up in the background with every purchase you've been making. But yeah, for those of you who have been taking advantage of it, good on you. Please keep it up, and yeah, thank you as ever for your loyal custom. Andrew Johnson, you've just fired a little question through there. Any new flavours due soon? On Onepoundeliquid right now, we haven't got any major new flavour launches planned for the immediate future. You're probably going to see a lot more of that sort of thing as we move into the new year. Obviously, we're getting towards the back end of the year now. The one thing we will have coming out soon is our Nic Salts shot, which is going to be a great little addition for the shortfill range. So obviously, most of you who are familiar with shortfill vaping will already understand what a Nic shot is, and a Nic Salts shot isn't anything too hugely different from that. It works in the exact same way. The mixing ratios will all be the same. So for those who aren't familiar, if you take one of our 50ml short fills, they're in a 75ml bottle, short fill to 50ml with 0mg e-liquid. If you were to add one 80-20 18mg 10ml Nic shot to that, you would then be left with 60ml of 3mg high VG juice. Obviously, logic dictates you add another 10ml one on top of that, you'll have 70ml of 6mg high VG juice with a little 5ml headspace in the bottle to allow for a little bit of steeping, because of course once you've added Nic shots to a short fill, you want to give it a shake and ideally leave it for, minimum 10 minutes and maximum a couple of hours, just to let everything blend in and settle there. Obviously most people get onto it straight away, and I'm guilty of that as well sometimes, so no judgments from me. But yeah, so the Nic Salts shot works in exactly the same way as that. It will work in the same way. It will still create the same kind of strength, 3 and 6, based on 1 or 2 shots added to your short fill. But of course, it's Nic Salts rather than freebase, which means it's gonna work a little bit differently when you inhale it. It's gonna be super smooth. I mean, we all know 3s and 6s in high VG are pretty damn smooth anyway. If you're a high VG vape, you'll be more than familiar with that. However, with the Nic Salts shot, it's going to be even smoother. You pretty much won't even be able to tell the nicotine's there until you feel that craving get satisfied. And because it's Nic Salts, it's going to hit you harder, it's going to hit you faster, but it's going to be super, super smooth. So it's a nice way to kind of take your short fills to the next level. If you prefer vaping high VG, but sometimes you find that 3 or even 6 milligram in freebase isn't quite hitting your craving in the way you want, which I know is something I experience from time to time, then the Nic Salts shot could be a really good solution for you as well, because it's, you know, you're going to find it's going to have a slightly better impact at satisfying those cravings. So please do keep your eyes peeled for that coming online soon, and it will be there, it will be available, and it will be available on the short fill page for you to buy. So yeah, please keep your eyes peeled. So let me just have a look there. Lewis Kidd is watching. Hello, Lewis Kidd. Good to see you here. Who have we got? From our direct messages. Okay, so we don't actually have a name for this question, but we have: why have you changed the e-liquid bottle colour? Now, this is the reason I laugh, is because this is something we've been getting a lot ever since we introduced the recycled bottles I started talking about at the beginning of this video. So just to reiterate, in bullet point format, last year we changed over all of our 10ml bottle supply from the standard brand new PET bottles to a 100% recycled PCR, which means post-consumer recycled PET, which is essentially fabricated rather than from using virgin plastic, which requires a lot of raw materials and is quite damaging to the environment. It uses reclaimed what were previously single-use plastics from areas like riverbanks and other environmentally threatened sort of zones that basically people go in, they collect the plastic, it prevents it from entering the ocean ecosystem, so we're doing a little bit for the planet there as well, which ties into our CSR policy, which I talked a little bit about in the last video, if you wanted to go back and check that out at any point. But yeah, so essentially, not only are we using recycled material, which is helping to clean up the environment, but we're also empowering some underprivileged communities as well, because they are the ones who are actually paid to gather these waste plastics from the environment, and they also receive financial incentive to get those collected and get those processed into the bottles that we then use. PCR plastics are used for all sorts of different things. However, we've been lucky enough to have a 10ml option that we can use for our e-liquids as well. So that's why. Now, with the colour change question, the recycled bottles do have some variation between batches because they're made from recycled material. Of course, you don't have the you don't have the ability to just pick a perfectly clear plastic every single time. Sometimes it will have a slightly yellow tint, sometimes it will have a slightly green tint, it may even have a slightly darker black tint, which one of our most recent batches of 10ml bottles has had, which has caused a few concerns amongst our customers, you know, we'll be honest. However, I can't reassure you enough that the liquid inside those bottles is exactly the same that it has always been. It's never changed. The bottles are also the exact same quality that they've always been. It's just that you might start seeing a little bit of variation in colour from time to time. We do try to make sure that's kept to a minimum, because obviously we understand that first impressions can be quite a lot, and if you're used to seeing a very clear liquid and all of a sudden it seems tinted a bit yellow, then you may have some questions. So we know we're trying to avoid raising concerns amongst you guys and keep that nice and controlled, but from time to time we can't avoid it. So yeah, please don't panic if you notice different coloured bottles. It's perfectly normal, and it's because we're trying to be more ecologically friendly. So yeah, that's why we have got the change in the colour. Stephen Lawrenson, can we return our bottles to you for recycling? This is actually interesting you mentioned this. This is something that we obviously, as part of our corporate social responsibility, we are constantly looking for new ways to try and reduce our ecological footprint and sort of support people and communities alongside the environment as well. So currently we don't have a scheme in place whereby you can return your bottles to us. However, that's not to say it's not something we're working on. It's something we are actually acutely aware of, and it's something we would like to rectify in the near future. Obviously, as you can imagine, for a business of our size, there's quite a lot of logistical things that need to be sorted out in the background before that can happen. But rest assured, this is something we're looking into. Even if we don't manage to find a full-time solution to you actually returning bottles to us, we are constantly looking at ways to improve the sort of the bottle economy, as it were, so we can sort of try and help you guys either be able to recycle them yourselves, or, as you've said, Stephen, to introduce a scheme whereby you can bring them back to us. But yeah, we've got a pin in it. It's something we're thinking about, and we're gonna hopefully have some nice updates in the new year and be able to introduce some new things as well to help keep us a bit more green. Mark Schaefer, how about a coffee cream flavour? Not my go-to choice, but thankfully I don't dictate what flavours get made. I will make a note of the coffee cream flavour. You've asked that, and I will pass that on to our MPD team. As I've said in previous videos in the past, when we've done Ask Ollie sessions, before the era of me going live in front of you, which is scary. We made a note of every single request you guys ever make, and we do keep a log of it all. Anytime we see a particular buzz around a particular suggestion, then there's a very, very good chance that we may begin the MPD process and get that factored into our range. So coffee cream, duly noted, Mark, and I will pass that over to the guys on the technical side, and we will wait and see if enough people keep asking for coffee or a coffee cream, then we may see a new addition to the range that will please you. Ashley Leanne Parnell, hello. When are you getting 3mg menthol e-liquid back in stock? Now, also, do you have to use Hermes to deliver our orders? Yes, so it's always Hermes, isn't it? They get so much bad press. So the 3mg menthol issue is part of something I actually discussed at the start of the video. Sorry if you missed that, Ashley. Essentially, we are having some supply chain issues right now, which are causing some delays in certain raw materials getting to us. This is not a permanent issue, and it's not something you should be particularly concerned about. We are working really, really hard in the background to make sure that's resolved and to get normal service resumed. Along with your 3mg menthol, as you've probably noticed, there are a few other lines throughout our site that are currently out of stock. As I've said, I can't stress enough how hard we're working to try and get that turned around for you and get things back on track, and I can't apologise enough that the flavour you've been out looking for isn't there. Please do just watch this space, and hopefully within the next few days or weeks we should see everything return to normal. And just please try and bear with us, and we don't want to lose custom, we don't want to lose your loyalty because of any of this, so please do have some patience and bear with us. We're doing everything we can. It's a lot of things are out of our hands at the moment in terms of supply, and we're trying just to get those things resolved, but some things we do just have to wait, and our hands are tied. So yeah, as I say, please do bear with us, Ashley. I'm very sorry, and we will try and get things restored for you. In regards to Hermes, I'm afraid at the moment we have our partnership with Hermes, and we are going to continue using Hermes for the majority of orders. I understand that there have been some issues with it. We do take every single issue that our customers raise with us regarding Hermes directly to Hermes, and we have regular conversations with them about making sure the service is kept on top of and is satisfactory. Unfortunately, there are errors and there are issues. Least of all caused by the ongoing complications that are still rippling out from the pandemic. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you've placed an order, from your perspective, there really is no excuse if that doesn't turn up on time and correctly. So I apologise for any issues you've experienced at the hands of Hermes. That goes out not just to you, Ashley, but to all of our customers that might be watching. I do apologise, and we are constantly working with Hermes to make sure that the service remains at a level that you rightfully should expect. So yeah, that's Hermes. Stephen Lawrence, I always go next day for orders, as the order duration can be the length of time, not a problem with next day. That's cool, thank you for that, Stephen. No, yeah, again, going next day delivery, if you do choose that service, as Stephen says, you may find that you get a bit more consistent service there, so that's a good bit of advice. We've got another question here. Can I mix e-liquid flavours? Yes, you can mix e-liquid flavours. It's not something we would openly promote. Obviously, don't go too crazy, and make sure that whatever you do, you're always safe. However, it's something that we know our customers have done for a very, very long time. You buy one or two different flavours that you like. Oh, Ashley, you're very welcome. I hope it helped. Just thanking me for my reply. There she was. But yes. Mixing flavours, you absolutely can do it. Loads of our customers have been doing it for years. I even do it from time to time. You can, short fills it's easier with, because obviously the bottles are designed to be opened. However, while I can't recommend it, nor should I condone it for safety reasons, you can open the 10ml bottles and have a little experiment if you want. The easiest way to do without faffing around like that, though, is actually just to mix it in your tank. Now, I know it's a bit rudimental, but if you've got a couple of flavours that you think might go really well together, by all means, add a little bit to your your tank, add a little bit of the other one to your tank, give it a little shake, have a vape, see how you like it. It's not going to do you any harm. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. What I will say is, the one thing to make sure is that you keep your PG-VG ratios the same to avoid any kind of weird dilutions going on there, which might affect the performance of your vape. And also try to make sure that your nicotine strengths are the same as well, because otherwise you could end up with all kinds of weird skew-iffed nicotine strengths that you might not be used to, which can, of course, maybe end up with you not having enough nicotine, or could end up with a really, really harsh hit. That's really not going to be something you want. So just bear those couple of points in mind. Keep your nic levels the same, keep your PG-VG ratios the same, and otherwise have at it, have a little mix, have a little play. It's great. If you stumble across something amazing that you think's worth shouting about, by all means pop on the social media channels, leave us a comment, leave us a message saying you've had a little experiment, you think this is great. You never know, we might like it that much ourselves that we turn it into a fully fledged flavour. But yeah, just so by all means, happy mixing out there. Oh, we've got a question here about nic shots and short fills. Obviously, I've mentioned a little bit about that earlier in the video. How many nic shots can I add to my short fill? I need a stronger nic strength. Okay, so obviously our short fill bottles are designed for you to add up to 2 10mm nic shots. That will leave you with a 5mm headspace. If you really, really felt like 6mg high VG wasn't hitting you hard enough and you weren't getting the right nic strength from that, you just want a little bit more, theoretically you could then fill that remaining 5mm headspace in the bottle with half of another nic shot. Off the top of my head, I feel like that would yield approximately a 7.5-ish to 8mg strength. But again, that's very rough maths off the top of my head, so please don't take that as read. But that'll be around the ballpark you'd be looking at with that. That might give you the extra little bit of kick you're looking for. However, realistically, up to 6mg in high VG is probably about as high as you're going to go, because over that you are going to get a bit harsher. I would probably recommend, if you're struggling to get the satisfaction at 6mg in high VG, that you either hang fire and have a go with our Nic Salt shot when that comes out, because that will suppress your cravings a bit more effectively than freebase does. Again, it's all down to personal preference and taste, whether you use freebase or salt, but that will work. Equally, it may well be worth abandoning high VG for a time and experimenting with 50/50 liquids. Obviously, the Liquid Pro's on our website. That's a really, really affordable 50/50 device if you're worried about spending more money when you've already bought a high VG device. But at the end of the day, the whole point of vaping is to satisfy your cravings and ultimately make sure that you don't stray back to cigarettes if you've moved on from smoking. So it's important that you get the right nicotine level, and it's important that your cravings are satisfied. So, please don't be afraid to mix it up and go from high VG to 50/50 if you feel that's what you need to do to get the satisfaction that you need. Let's see here. What's your favourite dessert flavour? Dessert flavour, interesting. So, I tell you what, I won't talk about myself. I will answer Andrew, who's popped up here with another question. Have you noticed salt e-liquids are more flavoursome than normal e-liquid flavours? Now, this is quite an interesting one, and I do almost wonder if it's been potentially influenced a little bit by the recent explosion in the disposables market. Anyone who vapes and visits a vape store, or even has just passed by a convenience store recently, has probably seen certain brands of disposable vapes that have really taken prominence in the marketplace right now. Those ones in particular have got really, really strong and prominent flavours. And to be perfectly honest with you, I noticed that even some of our free pour 10mm Nic Salt e-liquids as well have got really nice flavour. I think partially it's down to the fact that Nic Salts, by their very nature, desensitise that naturally harsh taste of the nicotine, because the salts themselves are quite acidic, and nicotine's naturally very alkali. So when you create a Nic Salt, you actually effectively neutralise the pH of the nicotine, which is why it's so smooth. But also, by taking away that harshness, it's entirely possible that you might be noticing a stronger taste from the Nic Salt juices themselves. So that could partially be down to it. But equally, I think a lot of people out there in the market, aside from ourselves, do tend to add a little bit of extra flavour to their Nic Salt juices, depending on the type of Nic Salt you use, because you may or may not be aware that there are different types of Nic Salt available that use a different kind of salt acid to create that Nic Salt blend. Some affect flavour in different ways. Some actually mute different types of flavours. There's certain types of Nic Salt that can mute berry flavours in particular, it's all very strange. The reason we use our salt is because it has the least effect on flavour and has the maximum impact on your craving satisfaction. So, you know, we've tried to do our research and create something that works for everybody. But yeah, it's entirely possible that if you've used a different type of salt while you've been experimenting with different products or different brands, that you may have noticed more flavour in some than others because of the actual type of salt that's in there and how that affects the way the flavour is delivered to you. So there's a few reasons why it could be like that, but I have definitely noticed, Andrew, that some salt e-liquids are more flavoursome than normal ones, and yeah, it's an interesting one, but I think they're great products. So if you are a salt vapor, then good on you. Bill, what about the problem of shipping to the EU? Now, yeah, I know this is something that we're, you know, it upsets us as much as it upsets you, I assure you. We really don't like the fact that we're having to disappoint our international customers, especially after Onepoundeliquid in particular. We built up such a great international customer base, which we were so appreciative of all the loyalty we were receiving from across the world. It was wonderful, but unfortunately we have suffered at the hands of Brexit. It's made things very difficult in terms of international shipping. We are aware that some competitors have begun doing this again, but this is something that we're trying to work on with a major sense of urgency, and we don't want to keep you guys waiting. We want to come back and really want to start shipping internationally again if we can. But at the moment, there's a lot of rules, regs and red tape that we need to cut through in order to get that set up properly and in the right way so that we can continue doing it moving forward without any further delays. So Bill, if you are one of our international customers, I'm really sorry that we haven't been able to reach you and you might not have been able to get the products you want recently. Please do try and bear with us. We will be restoring international service just as soon as we can. Lube oil, all right. What do you find best to use on your ginger beard, VG or PG? Lou, it has to be VG. I like it to be thick and glossy with that natural sheen. The lighting's not very good in here, but I actually have a nice fresh coat of VG on today. That's why it's holding so firmly. If you've got a beard yourself, Bill, you're very welcome, mate. I hope it was helpful, and again, I apologise for the international shipping delays. But yeah, Lou, yeah, if you've got problems with your beard being a bit unruly yourself, I can't recommend VG enough. Disclaimer: please do not actually put VG on your face or your beard. Except for you, Lou. You can put it on, mate. You're hard. I know you can take it. Okie dokie. So let's have a look here. Liquid Air or Liquid Pro? Which would you recommend? That's an interesting question. So I suppose the reality is they're really quite different, and it depends what you want to get out of your vaping journey. So we have the Liquid Air is obviously a pod device. It's actually one of the most affordable and accessible ones on the market. It's dead simple, comes in a nice concise range of flavours, and really the Liquid Air it's great if you want a little backup vape that just tucks into your pocket without having to go down the disposables route. Be a bit more ecologically friendly, because we all know disposables aren't necessarily the best thing for the environment. But the Liquid Air is a great kind of alternative for that. It will definitely tuck away in your pocket nice and neatly. If you know you're going to be going out and you've got a big mod, normally that's your standard device, you don't necessarily want to be carrying that thing around, especially if it's the size of a house brick like some of mine are. So yeah, the Liquid Air is a great option for that, but it's also a great option for people who may not have tried vaping before. Perhaps you're a recent ex-smoker, or you're just looking to get into vaping. You might have left smoking behind a while ago and you've been trying other ways of nicotine therapy. But yeah, by all means, if you're a new vapor and you kind of want to just have a little experiment with our flavour range, it's a really budget conscious way to do that. You don't have to spend a load of money on a fancy device and a load of e-liquids that you might only use a few drops of and then want to throw in the bin if you don't like the flavour. Grab a Liquid Air. It's great. You pop the pod in. It's £1 a pod. The device itself is unbelievably cheap as well, and literally that doesn't mean we scrimp on quality, as I'm sure most of our loyal customers know. Just a disclaimer, but it's super affordable, and it means you can have a little experiment, and it gets your hands on a little second backup vape if that's what you're after as well. So the Liquid Air is really good for those situations. The Liquid Pro, it's got that rapid release coil in there, but it's a bit more of it's not an advanced kit, but it is a more advanced kit than the Liquid Air. It's what we would call an open system device, which means it's got a tank that you open and fill at your leisure rather than using pods. And then, sorry, we just had another question pop up about cups there. The mugs, we are addressing the mugs. Please watch this space. I know I sound like a broken record. We will get to the mugs at some point in the very near future. Please bear with me. Louis just thanking me for my response there. You're welcome, Looster. I hope you're well, bud. But yes. Sorry, yes, the Liquid Pro. That's what I was talking about. Sorry, I got distracted there. It's a really great engagement today. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Like, there's so many things popping up in the in the questions box here. It's great. So I was going a little bit red there. So I swear I'm not nervous. But yeah, so yeah, the Liquid Pro is great. It's an open system device. You can fill it with whatever liquid from our range that you would like. Obviously, it's optimized for use with 50/50. However, you can get away with putting high VG in there. It's not necessarily going to be the most optimized experience, but it will still work if you just want a nice little handy device. But I would really say between recommending the Pro or the Air, you just have to look at your needs, look at your situation, and work out which one's going to be best for you. If you want a bit more advanced tech and a bit more sort of open platform to experiment with whatever e-liquid you want, then the Pro is probably a better choice. If you're a new vapor and you're just looking to dabble or perhaps just get a little taste of our range without breaking the bank, then try the Air. And that's really the answer to that one. There we go. Okay, so Ashley, again, with a little suggestion on the multiple bottle situation. So she's just saying here, have you looked into making bigger bottles? For example, instead of 10 times 10 mil, make 1 times 100 mil. Now, in terms of short fill products, which obviously I know we already do larger volume bottles of, you can do that in those, but the reason we actually have to sell the liquids in 10 ml bottles is it's by law. Part of the TPD regulation, which came in a few years ago, as most of you will probably be aware of, when all the cigarette packets turned green and all of that, it was all fallout from the same set of legislation that impacted our industry as well. So by law, under the TPD, you cannot sell a nicotine containing e-liquid in a volume greater than 10 ml. That's why short fills exist only in 0 milligram. You can only ever buy a short fill in 0 milligram, and that's why you have to buy your separate Nic shot to add at home, because essentially the law prevents us from providing you with a bulk product with any nicotine in it. So unfortunately, our hands are tied. If we want to sell you a pre-nicked product, we have to do it in a 10 ml bottle. It's a bit of a shame, and I also agree that realistically, it's not the best thing for the environment. However, there are reasons behind them doing it. They wanted to limit the potential risk to someone like I know. They wanted to, like, it was to protect people like children and anyone who might get their hands on it and potentially ingest it. It would obviously limit the amount of exposure they would get from a harmful product, and there's lots of other reasons behind it as well. But that is the main reason. It's the nicotine in there. We can't sell it above 10 ml. Let's have a little look at what else we've got popping up. Stephen also wants a cup. Please, I promise I will try and do something about getting some cups very soon, but I don't have any at the moment. Are you doing the Xmas t-shirt? We're not going to be doing the custom Xmas t-shirt that we may have discussed in the past, Anthony. However, we will be doing a Christmas jumper day, and if you tune into the next live Ask Ollie session, you will see me sat here in what will probably a rather garish and slightly embarrassing, but I do not care, Christmas jumper. Ashley, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for asking so many questions. Just have a look. Sorry, we've got so many questions have been popping through. I'm just scrolling up to have a look at some of the ones above. Nick Lane, I wanted to place an order with you 2 weeks ago and you were out of stock on the short fills I wanted and no Nic shots. Supply needs to be consistent if you want regular business. Nick, I couldn't agree more. I also can't apologise more for the lack of stock we've been having recently. We've been facing a number of supply issues, which sorry for those of you who might have been here since the beginning. This will be the third time you're hearing me explain this now. But yeah, we have been experiencing some supply issues at the behest of the COVID-19 pandemic and also a lot of the issues caused by Brexit. Just like with the building trade, it's been very hard to get raw materials in order to complete jobs properly. This is something we're working on with our suppliers in earnest to get resolved because, as you correctly say, Nick, we can't expect loyalty from customers when they constantly visit a store and their favourite products are out of stock. That would just be naive of us to think. So we are doing everything we can to make sure that when you come back, everything will be here and everything will remain in stock for as long as possible with minimal downtime on our lines. Again, I can't apologise enough for any inability to get hold of the product you want that you faced, any issues you've faced at all, and we will do everything we can to get normal service resumed just as soon as possible. So again, apologies, Nick. And while I'm sure my answer doesn't do much to alleviate the fact that you can't buy the products you want, I do hope it at least gives you a little bit of explanation as to why we're having these issues right now. Okie dokie. I'll just have another quick look, make sure I haven't missed anyone. We've not had so many questions fly through in ages. Okay, I think that is just about everything and everyone. So before I go, I will just let you know that obviously Black Friday is on the horizon, and as per usual here at Liquid, we will be doing it in style. It's going to be done differently this year than it was to last year, but please do, I'm not going to give anything away at this point because I want to keep you nice and on the hook. But please do check in with us when Black Friday begins. There's going to be all sorts of good stuff going on site to put a smile on you guys' faces. There's going to be bundles, there's going to be offers, there's going to be all sorts of nice things going on. So please do come online, have a look when Black Friday starts, and you might just be able to bag yourself something to make you smile. But yeah, with that said, thank you very much everybody for coming and looking at me for another half hour today. I do hope I've been able to answer all of your questions satisfactorily. And yeah, other than that, please do come and see us again. If you want to check out any of the other live videos we've done previously, they are on our Facebook page for you to have a look at. It might be that a question you had today that you haven't had a chance to ask was already answered in one of those, so please do go and have a look if you've got a spare 10-15 minutes. Other than that, I hope to see you again next month with loads more questions. Take it easy, have a lovely weekend, and happy Friday.